Hi everyone, I want to explain the math behind COVID-19. This is not intended to do anything but to inform people and to help people that maybe have a hard time understanding what you're seeing on the news and putting everything together. I want to try to give you kind of my perspective of it. I'm not an expert, but I know the math behind it. So first of all, let's talk about just a very basic problem. If I were to give you, you've heard this before probably, if I were to give you 2 pennies on the first day of the month, and double that every day. Doesn't seem like it'd be a lot of money, but at the end of the month, on day number 27, I would give you 1 million, that's right, 1,342,000. 1,340,000, let's round it to $340,000. On the last day of the month, I would give you over $21 million. That's because the equation is just going to be the amount of money I give you is equal to 2 times, or to the power of D, where D is the number of days in the month. And this last number would be over $21 million. That's what's happening with the COVID virus. The number of confirmed cases as of right now in the US, according to TV that I'm watching right now, is 3,700 cases. And according to ourworldindata.org, the time it takes to double is 4 days. So here's your equation. A equals 3,700 times 2, because it's doubling every 4 days. So you divide the number of days by 4. And if you did that, after 1 week, you would have 12,000, I'm rounding, 12,500 cases, approximately. After 30 days, you'd have approximately 670,000 cases. And after 2 months, you'd have approximately 121 million cases. That's why people are freaking out. They're freaking out because they're trying to stop this. They're trying to take this number right here, 4, and they're trying to lower it. They're trying to stop the growth rate because they see what's happening in China, or what happened in China, what's happening in Italy, Iran, all the different places, Korea, South Korea, and they don't want that to happen anywhere else. They're trying to stop the virus. Now, this is not going to happen if we all do what they're asking us to do. This probably isn't going to happen if we stop doing, or if we do what they're asking us to do, namely stay out of crowded places, wash your hands, don't visit people that are elderly, that kind of thing. The problem, the reason that this is such a difficult thing to grasp, there's several things. I'll just explain them quickly to you. First of all, the actual number of carriers, we don't really even know what that is, because we haven't tested very much. And in fact, the testing, even the accuracy of the testing sometimes can be questionable, because you could test negative for it one day, but then you could contract it the next day and you're walking around thinking that you don't have it. Or the test, not all tests are accurate, or the testing procedures are sometimes faulty. So that could cause problems as well. There's also the number of people that each per day that each carrier is exposed to. That's why we're trying to lower. That's one of the factors. That's why we're trying to tell people to stay in, to not go in large groups. We're trying to lower that number. We're trying to get rid of that doubling in 4 days. We're trying to spread that out and stop that from happening. Also, the probability of infection, that is a factor really in all of this. It's a factor that has a lot to do with if we can find, where are they here? I wrote them down here. If we can find a vaccine or a treatment, if we're able to find something like that, they're talking about developing those, and hopefully they'll be developed quickly by maybe June or July. They're talking about possibly having something out, but we're trying to develop those quickly to reduce the probability of infection. One of the other issues and factors is the incubation period, which means the time between the infection, someone gets infected and shows symptoms. One of the things they're finding out is that people that aren't sick can still spread the virus because they don't realize they have it, particularly young people, because it's not a very, it doesn't put them out, or a lot of times it's very mild, and so they won't realize that, well, it might be mild in one person, but when he spreads it to another person, it's not mild, and then it keeps spreading because people don't know even that they're sick, and they're walking around, shaking hands, living life, going out in big groups, that kind of thing. We also don't know yet what the infection period is. That means the time that the carrier can infect other people. I've read things about 2 to 12 day or 14 days is the average infection period. I think the average is maybe 5 days. But again, that's hard to know because you don't know exactly who the carriers are. You don't know exactly when they, how sick people feel varies from person to person as well. They also don't know how long the virus lasts on surfaces. That's why they're telling everyone to clean surfaces, wash your hands a lot, because they don't exactly know that. They're also talking about mutation of viruses and how right now it's not very deadly for the majority of people. It is deadly for a certain demographic, but it's not very deadly at the current virus, but it's certainly, viruses tend to mutate, and if it mutates into a more deadly virus, that could be really bad news. We also don't know for sure about the possibility of reinfection. Once someone gets the virus, are they immune to it? That's usually how it works, but this is a new virus. That's what the word novel means. So we don't really know exactly how true that will be and if that's going to change over time with the mutations of the virus. We also don't know how our proactive measures will really affect the spread. That's an unknown, where it for sure will if we isolate ourselves and stay indoors and wash our hands and practice these safe practices that everyone's talking about, but we don't know exactly how much that's going to affect it. And then another thing is we don't know about the weather. A lot of people are talking about, similar to the typical flu virus, once the weather gets warm in certain areas, it's kind of goes away. We don't know that for sure. It's unknown whether this virus is going to react that way or not. So there's a lot of questions, there's a lot of fear, a lot of unknowns, and I just wanted to give you kind of a quick little video to help you maybe understand a little bit better and why everyone's freaking out so much. This is a serious deal. Please do not act like it's not. Please do not look at the numbers and think that that they're nothing, because again, like I said, it looks like nothing when you're at the beginning of a exponential growth model, but at the end it's a big, surprisingly big deal. Those things start to move quite a bit. One last point about these models: this is not, it won't keep going. If we keep adding numbers here, it'll get to the billions. That obviously is not what it will do in the long run. It won't go to billions because of these different factors I talked about with immunity and different things like that. It's not that it has to infect every single person. It's what's called a logistics. It follows a logistics model. If you want to take a look at some other videos that talk about that, they do a better job. I don't really want to get into that. I just wanted to give you kind of a glimpse of what it looks like when it's at the beginning and ramping up toward that peak that you've heard people talk about. And they want to take that curve and they want to break it down and flatten it. You'll hear people talk about flattening the curve. They're trying to avoid this area right here because that's where it puts a terrible stress on the healthcare systems and the economy and all that kind of stuff. And so they're trying to avoid that because there's also a lot more deaths when it's in that range. From people that don't need to die, people that could have been treated, but because we don't have resources for everybody, the death rate increases and more people are in danger of death. So that's the reason we're trying to do, you're hearing what people are hearing and everyone's making such big deals out of it, even though there's only been at this point, I think, well, like I said, 3,700 in the United States out of a population of almost about 1/3 of a billion. And only maybe 70 or 80 deaths at this point. It's going to go up. All those numbers are going to go up. That's why the government is saying this. It's going to go up. Be prepared. And what we're doing right now is trying to prepare ourselves for that as best as possible. Hopefully that helped. Again, this video is for my family and friends and the people that I tutor and help out in math. I'm not trying to be an expert on this. Please do not leave nasty comments below. If you have legitimate questions, you can check out those websites, or you can even ask me, and I can certainly try to help. But I just want to give you guys just a basic summary, and just really more importantly, educate people and help them to know that we do have to take this seriously, and we do have to follow the recommendations of everybody. Thanks a lot. God bless you, and be safe.